2 years of sleepless nights and tear-soaked pillows. Your unwanted hands on my body still hold me right where you left me, with my back against that bright wall. Countless times I fell to my knees, unable to stand and withstand how much it hurts as it ate away at me. Curled up on the floor, drenched and drowning in an ocean of pain as it flowed through me in waves. And through it all, one question kept on replaying itself on my mind. Why? Why couldn't you just listen to me when I said no? Why? In this life, you'll never be able to understand how much it hurts. What you did to me suffocated me in ways I can't even begin to explain. What you did to me seared me, marked me, cut through me. It broke me down and left me in pieces. Yogesh Moodley, warehouse manager of the Port Elizabeth branch of Alert Engine Parts. Do you have any idea of how much you have taken from me? Of how much you robbed me of? You were my boss, I was your employee. You are years ahead of me, have had a lifetime of experiences. But without any regard for me, you invade my personal space. Didn't listen when I said no, held me tightly so I wouldn't be able to push you away again. I want to be your first. Those were your words to me. And so you forced things on me that I had never even experienced, taking the bits and pieces of the first you wanted. To keep that part of myself saved and safe all those years, only to be robbed by you. Things we were probably doing long before I could even learn how to walk, still a baby learning how to crawl. Things we were doing long before I ever really knew the difference between a boy and a girl. Things I stood in front of you as an adult, never having experienced you take from me. To keep that part of myself saved and safe all those years, only for you to not listen to me when I said no. Do you have any idea of how much you have hurt me? You nearly killed me. It must feel good to be you. You probably walk around that warehouse like you own the company after what you got away with. You knew things would be mishandled in your favor, and it must feel good to know that you can do anything to any one of your employees there and get away with it. It must feel good to know that you could sexually harass an employee and someone that will just get rid of the person you harassed and the problem is solved. You must feel so powerful and invincible because you can force yourself on your employee, and if she says anything about it, then they can just threaten to make her pay damages. After what you did to me, after all those times I said no to you and you didn't listen, someone there threatens to make me pay damages. After what you did to me, after they let you get away with what you did, someone there threatens to bring you to law. You must feel like the king of the world. It must feel really good to know that at Alert Engine Parts, you can do whatever you want and get away with it. Sir Dick Davids, Human Resources Executive of Alert Engine Parts. I didn't know you were the one responsible for sending me on a wild goose chase. I didn't know you were the one responsible for having the case I referred to System A cancelled because, according to you, I had referred it incorrectly. I went to System A last year March to find out why they had referred me to a place that doesn't deal with sexual harassment cases. The answer that I got back was that they would reopen the case. And from there, it took 6 months of me going there again and again to finally get a date. And all of that started with you communicating incorrect information to CCMA. It took 6 months of me going there again and again so I could sit in front of you and listen to you lie. Now it's my turn to say something, and you are going to sit there and listen. 8 December 2015. The first thing I put in front of you were these messages I had sent to a friend telling her what my manager had done. And you dismissed these texts without even taking the time to really look at them. These texts that you so quickly dismissed let you in to what I was thinking when all of the harassment started. They answer the question of why I didn't immediately go and report Yogesh. They get rid of this idea that I suddenly woke up in November and decided to make up things about him for whatever reason. The same way I was going to look at you and tell you what happened, these messages were going to do it better because it was me relaying what happened. Days after it happened. In front of you, I was going to talk about something that happened 6 months back. Again, these text messages were of me relaying what happened days after it happened. So these texts were very much relevant, but you just dismissed them without really taking them into consideration. The second thing I placed in front of you were messages I had sent Yogesh a couple of months before I reported him. But you dismissed them as well, giving another nonsensical excuse as to why they weren't relevant enough for you to go through them. A couple of messages of me talking about the fact that he had been forceful you didn't find relevant because he never responded to them. Him not having a response for these is him also never denying anything. As a man, are you telling me that you would let someone, an employee of yours, continuously send you messages that you force yourself on them and simply just delete those messages without even questioning them when you know you never did such a thing? Even if you want to suggest that he didn't read any of these messages that his phone received, he couldn't have possibly deleted this message without seeing this first line first. He definitely saw this. And him deleting a message like this without even bothering to read the rest of it only tells of the fact that he had received one just like it before. Him seeing this and deleting this message without opening it to read the rest of it tells of him knowing exactly what I was talking about. Why would it bother him that I was repeatedly saying he forced himself on me if he never did such a thing? If this text I directly sent to him was me making a false accusation, then why would he just let it without even saying one word about it? I put these in front of you because when Yogesh Murli was told about me reporting him, he denied every single thing. He acted like he was hearing about something like this for the very first time. And these messages prove that he lied when he was first questioned about this and that he continued to lie. That is why I placed them in front of you. But you dismissed them as well. The next thing I put in front of you were texts he had sent me, things he had also said to me face to face at work. If your company policy says it's okay for a manager to say things like this to their employee, it still did not make it okay for you to just dismiss things that spoke of the times I said no and he didn't listen. You acted like nothing I placed in front of you was worth anything, and that is not true. There's nothing okay about the way you handled that hearing. There's nothing okay about how that whole case was handled. After Yogesh Murli found out that I had reported him, he came to speak to me and told me that the truth would not matter because of my race. Told me that a polygraph test would be done and the results would be fixed in his favor. Told me if I don't take everything back, I would lose my job because he wasn't going anywhere. And then I had to watch him put pressure on the person I had witnessed him say all of those things to me. And when I went to report all of that, I was just dismissed. And then you come along. And instead of correcting everything that had been done wrong, the only solution you had was to take my job from me. Letting Yogesh know that at Elite Indian Parts, he really could do anything and get away with it. There's nothing okay and there will never be anything okay about what you did. I don't get it. I don't understand why anyone could hurt another person and not care at all about what they've done. Not care at all about the impact that they've had on another human being. I think about what you did to me and how you showed me no regard at all. And I just don't get it. Who are you? Why would you? How could you do something like that? Were all questions I hoped I could possibly get answers to. And so I went on searching and I got to know you a little bit better. Because the inappropriate things you had said to me, you had said behind a closed door with no one else there. I couldn't have possibly imagined that you could be this inappropriate, right in the open, for the world to see. What makes you think it's okay to call women out of their names? What makes you think it's okay for you to call people insulting and degrading names? Why is that okay? As I got to know you better, one thing became really clear. You seem to lack self-awareness. Just to give one example. Here you talk about how white people stereotype and judge you, when you yourself do exactly the same thing to other people. You, the human resources executive of Elite Indian Parts, have the luxury of driving your own car, so you think it's okay for you to just judge other people like this? It's wrong when white people complain about your loud music, but because you are you, it's okay for you to say offensive things about other people? The way you so strongly speak out against white people being racist is something that really surprised me because of the way you had dismissed and tried to shut me down when I was talking about being told that the truth wouldn't matter because I'm black. Do you think it doesn't qualify as racism because it wasn't a white person who said that to me? Saying this in particular just floored me. The way you'd call out a whole group of people for being racist, call them names. It's just shocking to me that a human resources executive of a company would have and express a view like this about an entire group of people.
What surprised me even more is how
you could comment about what other people do to other people's kids after what you did to me. In one of the most vulnerable moments of my life, you sit across me, look at me, and tell me you have a daughter. In the middle of a hearing, you turned off the recording you were making and wanted to speak to me alone. You looked at me and presented yourself to me as a father of a daughter. You told me how old she is. You told me how long you've been married, and that I was young enough to be your daughter. In one of the most vulnerable moments of my life, you looked at me and pretended to be concerned about my well-being, making it seem like the best thing for me would be to walk away from my job, so I wouldn't be emotionally traumatized by the continuation of the case. In a state of being open, alone, and completely vulnerable, I ate up everything you said and really believed that you were being genuine, because you were talking about this daughter you said you have, not knowing that your show of concern was just an act to cheat me out of my job for the men who didn't listen to me all those times I said no, swindled and punished for something he did to me. It's a feeling I still cannot quite put words to, when it finally dawned on me what it is exactly that he had really done. After I had gotten what you wanted, there was no longer a need for the mask you had put on in front of me. And I got to release you as you showed me no regard at all, but instead tried to put fear in me. In one of the most vulnerable moments of my life, you looked at me, told me you have a daughter, and it was all just to lull me into a false sense of security. Also, you can cheat me out of my job for a man who didn't want to take no for an answer. After everything you did since that day, at CCMA you bring your child into this again. You look at someone else and say, I have a daughter. As if that somehow makes you absolute from every single thing you know you did wrong. As if that somehow proves that you did everything accordingly when you know you didn't. People do things to other people and they don't give them a second thought. You ask how that woman would feel if that had been done to her kids. How would you feel if someone punished your child for something someone else did to her? How would you feel if someone cheated your daughter out of her job so that the man who hurt her didn't have to deal with the consequences of his own actions? How do you look at me and tell me you have a daughter and then do every single thing you did? How do you do that? As a person, how do you do that to another person? How? People do things to other people and they don't give them a second thought. What if it was your child?
To the CEO. To someone else, Alert Engine Parts sending me this letter of demand after I posted Fear is a Luxury I Cannot Afford on YouTube might make sense because it looks like you are taking the appropriate legal steps after a video like that. But to me, the person who received it didn't make any sense at all. And I'll explain why that is. Firstly, everything in that video is true. But let's say I didn't have a single thing that would support anything I said in that video. And let's put the truth aside for a moment. Because you could, in that instance, just deny everything like it was done here. From December 2015 and in January 2016, I had communicated to the Human Resources Executive that what he did was unfair and that I shouldn't have been the one to lose my job after what Yogesh Murali did to me. And he never bothered to give a single response to that. Also in January 2016, I informed the Human Resources Executive that I would take what he did wrong and make it public. And that is something he responded to. In his response, he told me to share all the details of what happened. For a number of good reasons. If I was in his position, I would have never given such a response. If ever there was a time to say I am making false accusations, that was it. I was again directly saying to him that he didn't handle things accordingly. And his response to me is to tell me to share everything. Okay. All right. Again, if I was in his position, I would have never given such a response. And so I wanted to make sure that he was aware of what he had said to me, aware that I would follow his instructions, and aware of what he had just done to that company. And in February of 2016, I sent another email that I made sure would definitely get his attention. In that email, I relayed everything that had happened, including him telling me to share everything, making it clear I was going to do exactly that. Now, this was the fourth time I was communicating that he didn't handle things accordingly. And in that, it was the second time I had communicated that I would be taking this public, and I never got a single response to that email. So what is this? And what was I supposed to do with it? 4 times I had communicated to him that he didn't handle things accordingly. Twice I had told him I would be taking this public. And the only response I ever got was to share all the details. So what is this? And what was I supposed to do with it? After I sent the people there a link to that video and had gotten back an indirect threat about being sued, I responded. And in that email, one of the questions I had asked is if the video was perhaps not detailed enough for the HR executive. And I believe that was a fair and valid question. Who told you that the things I said in fear is a luxury I cannot afford were false? You weren't there. You don't know what happened. So who told you that the things that I said were false? Couldn't have possibly been the human resources executive who told you that, because that would be him being dishonest. He can't give me the blessing to do something and then want to sue me for it. That is being dishonest. It's the same as someone simply saying they want something of yours and you responding by telling them to take everything you own without anything compelling you to give that response, and then calling the police and saying you've been robbed. It's dishonest. Me being sent this letter and being threatened like this is someone there being dishonest. There wasn't a gun to his head when he told me to share everything. Nobody forced him to say that. Even if there was, even if at that moment someone was standing next to him, forcing him to type that response, someone in that company had been given a chance to amend that response. That email in February was an opportunity for someone there to call me a liar, if that is what you want to call me. It was another chance for Sadiq Davids or someone else there to accuse me of making false accusations. But I never got anything from anyone there that would even remotely suggest that what I was saying wasn't true until that video. Why weren't those things false accusations before that video was posted online? If ever Sadiq Davids was really of the understanding and the belief that I had made false accusations against Yogesh Mudli, and Sadiq Davids had done everything accordingly and followed the proper procedures, then why didn't it alarm him that I was making false accusations that he handled things unfairly the very first time I said anything about it? Why did a video have to be posted online first for those things to be false? If the human resources executive says he took my job from me because I made false accusations against Yogesh and says I am aware of that reason, then why didn't it alarm him that I was continuing to say that Yogesh Mudli sexually harassed me, and in addition to that, saying he didn't do things accordingly and favor the man who had harassed me, if all of that is false? If Sadiq Davids was really of the belief that I had made false accusations against Yogesh Mudli and was making false accusations against him as well, then why didn't I receive a letter similar to this in January 2016 or in February after I sent that email? telling me to stop making false accusations. If Sadiq Davids really followed proper procedures and did everything the way it was supposed to be done, then why wouldn't he immediately put a stop to me saying otherwise? On multiple occasions, I say he didn't do things accordingly and told him I'll be taking this public, and the only response I ever got was to share all the details. If the things I said in fear is a luxury I cannot afford are false, then why weren't they false enough for anyone there to take action in the beginning of 2016? If ever my job was taken from me because I had made false accusations, then why wouldn't it concern Sadiq Davids that I was suddenly making false accusations against him enough to do anything about it? Why weren't those things false enough to inspire immediate action from anyone there and put a stop to this the very first time I said anything about it? After I received this letter that says I should furnish the Human Resources Executive with a written undertaking, I emailed him, and in that email I wished him good luck in court. I felt like that was a very appropriate response to this letter. Surely you inquired and followed up on whether or not I had met your demands. And when you were told that I had wished the HR executive good luck, if your understanding is that everything in that first video is false, then that response should have puzzled you. And my question to you is, what questions did you then have for the human resources executive of that company after a response like that? I wasn't just being threatened by one person. That is a company with over 10 branches all over the country. What in this world could possibly make me so bold as to respond to a letter like this, like that, other than knowing that I am speaking the truth and willing to stand by it? What would make me so bold as to make a video like that in the first place, other than the truth? After my response to this letter, what questions did you then ask the Human Resources Executive? I looked at this letter and what I know, it's either it was sent to me for the sole purpose of trying to intimidate me, to put fear in me, to silence me, or someone they really wanted to go to court so they could tell lies under oath. That is my understanding of what this letter is. What is your understanding of the intention behind this letter? When I first looked at this, I did a quick scan of it and then I put it aside, wondering why someone there would think that lying could possibly solve anything. A couple of minutes later, I picked it up again and I actually read the whole thing. And I saw something that really, really confused me. I put the letter aside again and went online, went to the link I sent Sadiq Davids, and listened to the video I posted carefully. And then I muted it and read everything I typed carefully. And then I asked someone else to do the same thing. I just couldn't believe it. I just could not believe the lengths some people were willing to go. It wasn't enough for someone there to deny what they know to be true. But on top of that, someone there had to accuse me of something that I never even said. Are there no limits to the lies someone there is willing to tell? Self-preservation would be one thing, but this right here is something that is on a level of its own. I know what I said, and I know what I did not say. I went online thinking someone, something, somehow messed with the video I posted and put things of their own there, but that wasn't the case at all. Someone there just had to add more lies on top of everything else. I don't want anyone to misunderstand me, so I'll make myself clearer. Let's take this for example. In that video, I never specifically used the words racism or sexual harassment. But this right here is a sum up of something I did say. I am not talking about you using different words to summarize something I did say. No, that is not what I'm talking about. I am talking about looking at this letter and seeing something I most certainly did not say. As for what that is exactly, you should know. I shouldn't have to point it out to you. You're the ones who said you're taking this to court. You should know. And in any case, this letter was already full of lies without someone there adding things I didn't even say to it. As easy as it has been for someone there to make me out to be the bad guy throughout this whole thing, maybe, just maybe, a resolution would have already been brought to this if someone there knew what it is to take responsibility for their own actions instead of putting it all on me. I was the one who was sexually assaulted by my boss at work, and the human resources executive of that company was the one who decided to add to that problem instead of following proper procedures and bringing a solution to the issue at hand. Why did you accuse me of saying something I never said is a question I can only ask you. Because you signed off on this letter, your name is on this thing, not his. But he is the one who decided to do whatever he wants and do favors for the man who assaulted me, then thought he could solve the problem that he now had when I had something to say about it all but trying to put fear in me. In a letter where you are accusing me of making false accusations, you yourselves make a false accusation. Who there would like to take responsibility for that? Because I have a whole list of questions I could ask them. You can't blame me for him making bad decision after bad decision. If he can't take accountability for his own actions, then someone else there needs to take accountability for putting him in a position that seems to be too big for him to handle. From where I stand, and in my personal opinion, he doesn't know what he is doing. The people there might think he has been doing a phenomenal job, but from where I stand, he doesn't know what he's doing. How do you come to me and say I am defaming that company after he told me to share everything? If those things are false accusations, then they are false accusations the human resources executive of that company told me to share. So if you want to say someone is defaming and causing that company harm, you should be pointing a finger at him. To you, the one who knows you did something wrong and then tried to cover it up with lies. Scramble, babble, and tell more fables. Pressed high-shine shoes and a pocket full of lies, fine-tuned to perfection. Who could ever believe one woman over men in positions of power? So you can go on and put on the mask of integrity and bury me under a dust of insincerity. Because you think all you'd have to do is huff and puff, and my resolve would come crumbling down like a little house built of hay. Cutthroat without a shred of decency. A man who'd use the existence of their own child to deceive and steal from another. A man who'd use the existence of their own child to polish and sell the lies he tells. So drunk on power thinks he can do anything to anyone and get away with it. And when all his wrongdoings come back knocking on his door, the law becomes a shield he thinks he can hide behind. Something he thinks he can use to put fear in me. Something he thinks he can use to silence me. Scramble, babble, and tell more fables. Pressed high-shine shoes and a pocket full of lies, fine-tuned to perfection. Who could ever believe one woman over men in positions of power? So you can go on and put on the mask of integrity and bury me under a dust of insincerity. You've already told me you've got them lined up and ready to tear me to pieces. So is that what you've got on your list of things to bring me down and throw me under the bus with? Number 1, slut-shame the virgin. What's number 2? Brainstorm a couple of lies to sell everything else with. What about number 3? Tell people you have a daughter, or is that number 2? How long did it take you to make a decision that would derail my life? A decision that would have me cry myself to sleep at night for 2 years? How long? Was it 5 minutes? Was it 2 minutes? 2 seconds? How long?
How long did it take you to make the decision to make me pay for something he did to me?
Was it before or after you told me you have a daughter? Was it before or after you told me how old she is? Without a second thought or regard, you take from me, punishing me for something he did. And then you sit across me and talk about what he almost lost. That felt like a slap to the face, a punch to the gut. It felt like I was being stomped on, dismissed and disregarded without a second thought. What he almost lost? Are you kidding me?
How can one person be so careless? How do you do that? How do you do the things you do to another person? Thinking about the things you've done, I started to doubt that you even have a daughter. Because what kind of father would do what you've done to me to someone else's child? You'll have to forgive me, but I just don't get it. I don't get how you could look at me and tell me you have a daughter and then do everything you did to me. How do you do that? How do you look at me and tell me you have a daughter and then cheat me out of my job for a man who didn't want to take no for an answer? How do you do that? How do you do that? People do things to other people and they don't give them a second thought. Whoever you are, wherever you stand, however high up life has taken you, may you always be able to see and recognize another person, another human being, however big and tall you think yourself to be. Never forget that our feet are carried by the same ground. I want you to remember my name. People do things to other people and they don't give them a second thought. You are going to remember my name.